This isn't therapy, it's a reckoning for the men who've been lied to about love and the women who've been sold safety instead of truth. This is where we say the things you're not supposed to say out loud. And on record, I am author and this is Cuffed. Your body knew before you did. It always does. The problem isn't that you miss the signs. The problem is that you talked yourself out of them. I'm author. This is Cuffed. 2 musings, 20 minutes. Let's get into it. The first topic we are going to address on this podcast, episode 18, by the way, is the slot machine. It is intermittent reinforcement. Now, I believe I touched on this a little bit in the last podcast episode when we were discussing breadcrumbs. And there's been confusion. Breadcrumbing is the behavior, the mechanism or mechanics of why breadcrumbing works and works so fucking effectively is because of intermittent reinforcement. Let's talk about intermittent reinforcement from a very basic level because it's absolutely fucking fascinating. If you gamble, then you understand this better than anyone. Just to put it out there, I don't gamble. My brain is entirely based in probabilities, and those probabilities make no sense to me. But anyway, everyone has their ways of having fun. So I'm not going to yuck theory on. But there is a intermittent reinforcement built into slot machines. It's the near miss. It's when you've been playing and you almost hit the big jackpot. That near miss is so extremely powerful. That's what keeps you playing. It's not hitting a jackpot. It's not losing and thinking you're going to eventually win. It is the near miss. Because what is interesting in the research behind the near miss is it has almost the identical psychological effect of winning. It causes a flood of dopamine. And when you get that flood of dopamine, your body loves it. Now you're chasing that feeling. And that is the same thing that's happening with breadcrumbing, is that the person is giving you enough breadcrumbs. Let's think about these as near misses, that you are chasing that feeling. And it's not so much the feeling per se. What you end up chasing is the relief. Let's frame this in a way that makes it easy to understand. The relief is when you're in between breadcrumbs or near misses. You are in a state of confusion. This is where you start doing did I do something? Like, why aren't we making plans? Is it me? Are they interested in someone else? And all of these thoughts start swirling around your head. And guess what's so lethal during this period of time? When you get your breadcrumb. Because now you get that rush and that sensation, but you get the relief. It's that calm relief that you get that you start to say, oh, they're interested. Maybe it isn't me. Maybe they were just off. And that's what makes it so addictive and so hard to break, is because you're chasing that relief. And this goes to, as we've hopefully just covered well enough for everyone to see, This is a chemical dependency. This is dopamine. This is the same reason why people scroll and just scroll and scroll and scroll on social media. This is the same thing as we discussed with gambling. This is triggering that same mechanism, that same primordial I don't mean how it's psychology, but it totally flips it into a chemical dependency. And if you are a premium subscriber, I'll touch on this a little bit because I think this is so important that we need to put it out there for everyone. We're not going to get into the mechanics of it, but the only way to get out of this loop is cold turkey. No other way. With chemical dependency, cold turkey is the only way out. Now, the thing that we're going to touch more on in the second segment of this podcast, which is the musing 89, the integration of the whole arc, is part of the problem with intermittent reinforcement, not part of the problem, the main problem with intermittent reinforcement and many of these manipulation tactics that we have talked about over the past 9 weeks. And if you're just joining us now on the podcast, I would encourage you to go back at least 4 podcast episodes and go on the website and check out the whole musing arc of control manipulation, because we've covered it all. And the vast majority, when you really distill down what's going on, is a perpetual state of confusion. At least to me. When I look at all of the different relationships where I've been on the receiving end, or when I was the one unfortunately engaged in these behaviors, confusion is so powerful in the sense that confused people don't leave. They don't go anywhere. That's how confused they are. They're literally stuck in place. And regardless if you're the perpetrator or you're the victim, that's what both sides ultimately relies upon. And I know as a victim, you don't rely upon it, but it's the mechanism that keeps you locked in place. And I know what breaks my heart about this arc in particular is how many private messages I've received, primarily from women, 99% from women. And trust me, it is not lost on me how flattering it is that you feel safe enough to reach out and send these extraordinarily personal messages about your personal experience. That is the most massive compliment you could give. And that's exactly what I always wanted Cuff to be, is a very safe place. But what's so sad about it is when you look back, it always comes to, I was so stupid. You weren't. You were human. You have the same needs that we all have, men included. You want to be loved. You want to be held. You want to be heard. You want to be seen. And sometimes those create hope. And hope is so powerful that it overrides our logic, our body, our nervous system. And that's not our fault. We were the ones. Now, I'm in an interesting position because I have engaged in some of these behaviors, but I've also been on the receiving end. It's not our fault. The other person did that, not us. We just hoped that they would be the person that we thought they could. But the behavior ultimately told us they won. This is a great segue into Musing 89, which is the weight of what you carried. That just posted last evening. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. This has to do with integration. And some people have asked me, when you say the word integration in terms of an arc like this, like, what does that mean? And I can only tell you what this means personally. If you want to drop in the chats and comment on what integration means to you, that would be great, because I feel like that would be very helpful for a lot of people to see how everyone deals with integration. And to me, I feel like there's a couple levels of integration. The first, I think, is obviously the most logical and the one most people can see pretty easily, and that's awareness. It's when you actually are in a situation and your body starts, getting these weird feelings and these alarm bells and red flags start going up. And instead of using logic to override that or allowing your heart to hold on to hope and override that, honestly, I think the first step is where you just pause and you say, wait a minute, the fuck's going on here? I really think that small interruption, it could be milliseconds, that you actually just think about, like, scratch your head. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why am I feeling this? Why does their behavior and their patterns not match what they're saying? That is really, to me, the first step. To me, the second step is when you're able to read or write about a situation either you're in or maybe a friend is in, where you can pull out your own behavior. Again, this could either be in the sense of you're the perpetrator or you're the victim, where you connect dots and you say, shit, that was me. So that's almost another layer of awareness, where you're able to step in to external scenarios and see your behavior elsewhere or in a different situation. Then, to me, the highest level of integration is once you become aware, once you see your behaviors in other situations, it's that your awareness is so high that you are no longer going to allow your brain and your heart to override your nervous system. It's when things don't make sense. Patterns are patterns. They don't lie. People do. And instead of negotiating the pattern away, you say, fuck this, I deserve better than this. I've seen this before, my body feels it, I need to trust that. To me, that's the ultimate integration. And it's not perfect. It isn't. I feel like it's a sliding scale where no matter what, given the situation, given the intensity, given the chemistry, you can slide all over the scale with, at certain times, you might have different levels of awareness, etc. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think this is ever something you completely master. It's more like something you're always working on. But at the end of the day, I think for me, the equation that I need to keep in the forefront of my mind is I deserve a relationship where I'm not confused. I deserve someone who chooses me wildly every day, every minute, regardless. Yes, shit's gonna hit the fan. Life is gonna go sideways. But that person leans into you and says, you fucked up, but I'm here. And this is where I really fucked up with Tabitha. Is that I was so terrified of losing her that I couldn't see her and what she was showing me. And it kills me. I can't even believe that I did it. But that's how scared I was. Is here was someone who was actively choosing me in difficult situations, and when it came time to do the same for her, I couldn't do it because I was so fucking scared. Yeah. This is what this arc has showed me. It hasn't been easy, and I know for a lot of you who have been reading this arc and doing the work, it hasn't been easy. And I can hear it in your messages you said. And the one thing that I always try to do, and I hope it comes across, and I think it does, is that your dialogue with me on social media, like in the threads, comments, etc., I curate those heavily so that it's a safe space to share. And I'm glad it seems to be working. So if you ever want to reach out and send a message just because you want someone to hear you and it will make you feel better, please don't hesitate. DMs are always open. Obviously, as we ignore them, we have to give priority to our premium subscribers. That's only fair. But I'll get to them. And I'm glad that some of you appear to be moving through the pain and getting clarity. The thing that I always say is clarity hurts, but eventually it doesn't. In the beginning, definitely hurts, definitely stings. That's where those feelings of, how could I be so stupid? I'm an idiot. You weren't. You were human. You wanted to be loved, just like we all do. Give yourself grace. Be proud of yourself that you're showing up every day, every week, reading, writing, doing the hard work, because you might not see the payoff now, but it's coming. You're laying the foundation. And I hope this manipulation and control arc has been eye-opening for a lot of people. I hope, women, you feel that you are seeing men. This wasn't an attack. We need to be better, collectively. me included. We can be better and we deserve to be better. So that's this week's episode. Hold the standard. Stay close. See you next week.